Good morning, everyone. Good morning. After that beautiful music that Ron provided for us, I hope you're all ready to stand for the opening hymn. It's Spirit of Life, number 123. The words will be on the screen, so please rise and give it a good try. Welcome again. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood, a liberal religious community that has been meeting for more than 125 years. My name is Georgetta Walsh. I'm the Sunday Associate this morning. As Unitarian Universalists, we agree to keep each other company, supporting one another on the journey of life. We ask questions about what our lives mean. We try to become the very best versions of ourselves. Each of us answers the big questions in our own ways, and we are okay with that here. We don't force each other, but let each other think for ourselves. We do share a belief in love that can heal and transform, and we believe in our interconnection and interdependence. We also believe in the beauty of human diversity, and all of us are welcoming here, no matter our age, our race, gender, sexual orientation, economic status, theology, or education. If you want to know more about this congregation, who we are, and what we do, please fill out a green sheet in the foyer in Anderson, or fill out the form that is being dropped in the chat room on Zoom. There will be a coffee hour after the service for snacks and fellowship. Please stay and join us. Folks on Zoom, you will have your own opportunity to chat and visit, so please don't drop off. As we begin, please take a moment to silence your electronic devices so that we can be truly present to one another. And I'm just going to say we are doing joys and sorrows, so raise your hand if you need a paper early so we could get that going. Okay, and the greeters can give you paper. Okay. This morning, we welcome Reverend Bill Neely, who is joining us as part of the New Jersey Leadership Leagues program, which provides from several congregations, one minister-led and one lay-led service a month, in addition to emergency pastoral care during Reverend Sarah's sabbatical. Reverend Bill Neely has served as Parish Minister at the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Princeton since 2011. He previously served congregations in Detroit and near Memphis. He and his wife live in Hamilton, where they have 3 kids, ages 14, 12, and 10, and 1 cat. Bill enjoys Pittsburgh sports, reading, riding, running, and obstacle course racing, and good pizza. Welcome. Okay, you'll light the chalice? Would you like to do that? Chalice is a central symbol of Unitarian Universalism, reminding us of the holy spark in each of us and of our interconnection as one family, beautiful in our differences and united in our humanity. Please join in the words for the chalice lighting. They are on the screen. We light this chalice for the hope of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action as we gather together in the circle of community. Terrific. Okay. Let's take a moment to center yourself. We are going to hear the singing bowl. And before I do that, I'm just going to invite you to take a deep breath, get comfortable, look around at these faces today. I'm so happy to see so many of you here. It's this community that holds us all together. We come together like this for a purpose, for the quiet companionship that reminds us we are not alone. Whatever is happening in our hearts and in our world, we are not alone. In this moment, breathe, feel the reality of community, of care, of love. And as we listen to this sound that calls us home, breathe and listen.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Friends, it's so nice to be with you this morning. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. There are two Jersey congregations with sabbaticals going on right now. One is yours and one is mine. Our assistant minister is also on sabbatical. So it's great, though, how leadership lets us support one another during these sabbaticals. It makes us all stronger individually, but more collectively as a UU presence in New Jersey. So it's really, really great to be with you. I want to thank Laura and Georgetta and Ron for their support in putting this service together. They made it really, really so easy just to drop in and worship with you. So thank you all so much for your help. Our second service that we're helping you with during the sabbatical isn't until June. That worked better for your schedule, and we're pretty flexible. So sometime in June, I don't remember the Sunday, you'll be graced with a sermon by Pauline Nijander, who's a member of our congregation and a seminarian at Drew. She's a warm presence, great preacher. I know that you'll enjoy her Sunday too in June. So keep an eye out for that. I know she's eager to get up here and visit you. For our opening words, Spirit of love who walks with us through life and brings us comfort and guidance and peace, we give you thanks for this day and its beauty, its fresh air, its sunlight, its birdsong, and this company that we keep. We give you thanks for this time with one another to laugh and listen and grow together, for this hour of worship which we hold with reverence and joy. In this spirit of love, come, friends, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body or spirit for the hymn 158, Praise the Source of Faith and Learning.
I will play this through once.
Good morning. My name is Hetty Hirschman. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees, and I'm the go-to person for when you want to help out with coffee hour. Okay, sharing the vision. One of the promises we make to each other in our shared covenant at USR is to support this congregation with our presence, gifts, and service, and to care for each other and the long-term well-being of our community. Our caring team helps us to care for one another. We'd like to remind you that each Sunday that the team can be reached by calling the office and speaking to Ann. You can let her know if you want to share a celebration or if you have a need that this congregation can help meet. The work of the caring team is vital, so please also let us know if you want to participate in that work. We care for the long-term well-being of our community by investing in the vision of justice and freedom that we share. We remember that it will take all our different talents, gifts, and support to make that vision a reality. There's a couple of announcements about ways that you can get involved in pursuing our mission. As you know, this month, Share the Porch campaign is collecting shoes for Souls for Souls, an organization which provides micro-business opportunities for third world people and keeps millions of pounds of shoes and clothing out of landfills. Mark your calendars. It will be all hands on deck after service Sunday, April 7th to pack, process inventory, write out mailing labels, and create ready-to-ship boxes. Be part of a good thing. Now, Susan Burleson will update us on the pledge. However, it looks like it's Jan Botcher.
Good morning, everybody. I'm pinch hitting this morning for Susan. She's a little under the weather. So hang on a second. All right, so as you know, we're in the middle of our annual pledge drive. Actually, we're not in the middle, we're coming to an end. Friday is the last day of the pledge drive, so we ask that if you haven't pledged yet, you get your pledge cards in, because after that, we will send names to the board and the board will be calling. Board doesn't want to do that and you don't want to do that. So let's get those pledges in, okay? So far, we have had 54 pledge units, or 43% participation. So it just seems like we're a congregation that waits to the last minute. It's kind of like why people come in at 1 minute after 10 every week. We've pledged $222,000, or 63% towards our goal. And one number I'm really happy to share is that 62% of people increased their pledge, and we've got one more first-time pledge in this week. So that's great. I mean, I talked about in the town hall how many people had held their pledge for many years, and you clearly heard that message because so many of you have been able to increase your pledge, and we thank you. If you haven't pledged yet, call Ann in the office. She happens to be here today, so you can pop over to Reeb after service, go on Realm, send a card, but just call Ann. If you can't figure it out, call Ann, because she'll do that like she does everything else around here. She's amazing. And if you haven't pledged, if you never pledged, or you haven't pledged, or you feel like you can't pledge financially, please remember that no pledge is too small. We would be thrilled if we had a pledge of $5 from somebody who's really financially struggling, because we just feel like there's this energy to saying everybody who is a member pledged. So please, if you're able to do that, we really appreciate it. And again, the deadline's Friday. And I'm sorry, Sean, are you waving at me? Oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure. And so please remember the deadline's Friday, and hopefully we'll get all those pledges in, and if not, you'll be hearing from us. Thank you.
And now our offertory will be collected, and we gratefully appreciate what you put in the basket. we're going to welcome Erin McWait up to give a testimonial.
Good morning. First, I have to acknowledge this incredible coordination of blues and stripes. It's just really fantastic. So, did you plan that? No, it's awesome. I had been eyeing Unitarian Universalism since I was finishing up my master's in social work at Rutgers 10 years ago. In my mind, I referred to it as the Church of Social Work, since the principles seemed to mirror much of the social work code of ethics. But the time wasn't yet right, so I kept the idea of joining tucked away in my mind. As the only child of ex-Catholic atheist parents who didn't find socializing to be a natural or easy thing to do, I grew up mostly as a loner. I made friends with the crayfish that I found under rocks while my dad was fishing, and the butterflies I chased around the yard while my mom was working. As a young adult, I craved community, but I just didn't understand what that really meant, nor did I know how to find it. What I lack in extroversion, Gilad makes up for tenfold with his seemingly non-existent sense of self-consciousness. Gilad grew up in quite the opposite fashion in Jerusalem, with a nonstop parade of family gatherings, Shabbat dinners, and a sense of belonging and community that still amazes me. And although I love spending time with my Israeli family, my need for quiet time and personal space often finds me taking a break in a spare room at my mother-in-law's house during rowdy Shabbat family dinners. After some prodding, Gilad agreed to check out USR in 2017, but after a few services, we decided that with a 1-year-old and another on the way, it felt like too much at the time. In 2020, at the height of COVID, Gilad underwent chemotherapy for lymphoma. Needless to say, going through chemo when our girls were 2 and 4, along with so much uncertainty and isolation, was an anxious and stressful time. I feel as though I've really just recovered from that time over the past year or two, and I think it coincides with our family being ready to reach out and explore USR. Fast forward to the fall of 2022, and we decided to give it another try. I was longing for a sense of community in a place where, as a front yard gardening, kombucha brewing, lifelong kitchen scrap composting, Mother Nature worshiping, backyard chicken raising woman, I didn't always feel like I fit in so well with many of the other Ridgewood moms. I was also itching for a dose of spirituality that wasn't dogmatic, to complement a lifelong dedication to personal growth work in a spiritual context, and a recently cultivated meditation practice. Gilad was hesitant, but when he heard the bit about atheists being welcome here, he agreed to see what it was all about. We also wanted a community for our daughters where they could learn, experience, and see modeled the notions that we want them to understand, but aren't always easy to find in the wider community. We love that USR seemed like a beacon of quirkiness, truth, and open-mindedness in a sea of redundant normalcy. And people actually wanted to talk about the things that really matter to us. It took us a while to get into the habit of coming every Sunday. It often felt like such a push. But in 2023, we signed the book, made our first pledge, and here we are. I'm happy to say that it feels more natural now. It's just something we're used to doing on Sundays. And as a girl who grew up associating holidays, traditions, and organized religion with emotional turmoil and false pretenses, that's pretty big, and I'm grateful. I will admit that the longer we're here, the more I recognize that the notion of community is easier said than done. And I do struggle to convince the fiercely opinionated, independent loner parts of myself that we really do have a home here. And that although this community thing can be daunting and a bit foreign some of the time, it's so very worth it, and I have so much to learn. I'm grateful that our family is here with all of you as we grow and learn more about ourselves and one another. And although I don't have much time for making kombucha or tending chicken since I went back to work, spending my Sundays with my family at USR is something I'm so glad that I created space for in my life. Thank you.
Nearly every Sunday that we gather, we make space for sharing with one another the joys and pains of our lives. The lives that brought us to this moment have been filled with joy and sorrow. In this moment together, we bring all that, memories, old ones, ones freshly being made. We come as a whole and complex beings, and we honor that together. This is the time in the service that we invite you to write into the chat on Zoom or give a paper with your joys and sorrows. Does anybody need one? We've got people. Okay. You have some that they gave you already? Thank you. Lida and Chuck Dye, they have their son Tim visiting from Petaluma, California. So that's a joy. Welcome. Mike Myers, happy for the son and the successful Journey Through Aging program. Thanks, Mike. Thank you, thank you. It was successful. We had 41 people, including the presenters, and that rain didn't keep us away. Kristen, Henry was accepted at the University of Mount St. Vincent, so now both of our kids are going to college. Wonderful, wonderful. Lily, are there any online?
There are. Miguel has a joy. Oh, sorry. Liz Kimpy gave him a lead on a potential part-time job opportunity. He is CPR certified. His full-term birthday was on March 23rd. He was 10 weeks preemie. His niece's first birthday was on October 21st. He also has a sorrow. He has a weird rash and ants in the apartment. Janice has a joy. There are a number of us here at USR who are also into Pittsburgh sports teams. And Carol Wolf has a joy that there are longer days and signs of spring. And that's all for us online.
And I forgot to give my own joy. Next Sunday is my father's 92nd birthday, and he's joining my mother and the rest of the family for the first Easter in 27 years because they moved to Florida when he retired, and they don't come up when it's the spring, they come up when it's the summer. And my son and his wife never had that big wedding 9.5 years ago. They had 12 people. So they're having a big party next Saturday for 150 people to celebrate the shower. It's a baby shower. They're having the baby in June. So my father thought it was worthy enough to come up for that. So I'm thankful. So mindful of the joys and sorrows shared and aware of those held silently in our hearts, we now come together in our time of meditation, led by Reverend Bill Neely.
I invite you to join together in the spirit of meditation. Perhaps let your eyes close, your feet find the floor, relax your shoulders and your bellies and your bodies, and take a few nice deep breaths in. In this circle of embrace, let us breathe in peace. And let us breathe out love. And let us hold in our hearts someone for whom we're concerned, and breathe in peace. And breathe out love. And let us hold in our hearts a stranger, and breathe in peace. And breathe out love. And let us hold in our hearts someone with whom we're in conflict, and breathe in peace. And breathe out love. And let us pray that this space of peace and love that we've created this morning stays within us and flows from us in all the days to come, in all the circles of our lives. Amen. We have two readings this morning. They're both by contemporary poets. Eddie Lemon, I think, is only a poet. Roske, the second writer, writes poetry and some prose and some short narrative pieces. But they're both very easy to find. If you like these readings, look them up. The first one is The Conditional by Ada Limon. Say tomorrow doesn't come. Say the moon becomes an icy pit. Say the sweet gum tree is petrified. Say the sun's a foul black tire fire. Say the owl's eyes are pinpricks. Say the raccoon's a hot tar stain. Say the shirt's plastic ditch litter. Say the kitchen's a cow's corpse. Say we never get to see it. Bright future, stuck like a bum star, never coming close, never dazzling. Say we never meet her. Never him. Say we spend our last moments staring at each other, hands knotted together, clutching the dog, watching the sky burn. Say it doesn't matter. Say that would be enough. Say you'd still want this, us alive, right here, feeling lucky. And the second reading is Thank You by Roske. If you find yourself half naked and barefoot in the frosty grass, hearing again the earth's great sonorous moan that says, you are the air of the now and gone, that says all you love will turn to dust and will meet you there, do not raise your fist, do not raise your small voice against it, and do not take cover. Instead, curl your toes into the grass. Watch the cloud ascending from your lips. Walk through the garden's dormant splendor. Say only thank you. Thank you. There ends our readings. Man, that is, is that just norm? Is that just Ridgewood on a Sunday? Does that just happen? That's unreal. That's a blessing. Don't let that go unsaid. Tell them after worship. That's incredible, both of you. Last summer, I was having a lovely little spell at a family summer camp we go to each year. Shannon, my wife, has been to 25 of these week-long UU summer camps that we go to. I've been to 24, and our kids have gone more or less since their births. We've missed the last few in one way or another because of the pandemic, but last year we were able to return, and we were really happy to be back there. It's called Susie. It was held in the Carolina Smoky Mountains, although this summer it'll be in Radford, Virginia. Regardless of where it is, it's a week surrounded by good friends we've had for years, and in some cases, decades. And there's always a lot of nature trips, which I like quite a bit. Last summer, I was kayaking down a river on one of those nature trips. Now, I am not a skilled kayaker at all, but fortunately, the river mostly called for more just presence than skill. You could just float and paddle about. And the air was fresh and clean, the river beautiful, the trees majestic, the company lighthearted, interesting, and multi-generational. And we even came upon a bald eagle sitting atop a high branch over the river. As we floated underneath her, she spread her wings and soared down the river just ahead of us a bit, landing on just another tree, just so I imagined that we could see her fly. It was quite idyllic for me. I'm happy in the woods, in water, in fresh air, being active and trying something unfamiliar. And this eagle putting on a show was just icing on the cake. And yet, as I floated down the river a little more, I began to think of our drive home in a few days. It was a long drive to be broken up with an overnight at a hotel in which we needed 2 adjoining rooms. I always worry about those adjoining rooms, mainly would we get them? I have trust issues with online hotel reservation systems and rental car systems. And for that matter, I hate it when you buy a ticket and it goes in your Apple Wallet on your phone. I never think it's going to work, even though it's only ever worked. I started thinking about all that on the river. And then I moved on to our trip to see family a little later in the summer, a trip that we've made many, many times, but one that these days relies on more negative tests before we start the drive. There's so much room for error there. And after that, we'd blink and be at the start of school with 2 in middle and 1 in elementary. That means band, track, plays, parties, many wonderful occurrences that speed at us and blur past us and can be really tricky to keep up with. And then I started thinking about how I wasn't sure what we'd do for Thanksgiving that year. We've stayed up here in Jersey in recent years, but there's always the chance to go see the family, or maybe this is the year we try to go into New York and watch the parade. We've been telling the kids we'd do that one year. We got to figure all that out. Christmas is busy and there's so much to do, and the rest of the year after that depends on so many variables of who needs to be where and when. There's a lot to figure out, and so many unknowns, I thought, as I floated down the river, the eagle long gone, but with some surprisingly faster and larger rapids suddenly appearing ahead. I've mentioned that I'm not a skilled kayaker, which anyone watching me at the moment would have noticed pretty quickly, as I realized where I was and alarmingly tried to back paddle to not aim directly at these rocks, in between which the water rushed. I find kayaks easy to maneuver, but impossible to control. And so every move only seemed to clear a more direct path to these rocks. And indeed, that's exactly where my kayak ended up, nose wedged in between 2 big boulders, fast white water rushing around me and over the sit-on-top kayak that was now just about as much in the river as upon it. Pushing off the rocks meant pushing against the current, which was much stronger than me. Climbing out of the kayak and on top of the rocks would let me free the kayak, but then it would certainly shoot down the river before I could jump back into it. Or I could simply jump out and float away through the rapids, and maybe without my intervention, the kayak would follow the current and come after me. That would be fun, at least, but I wasn't sure it would work. One thing was certain, I was no longer thinking about Christmas. And adjoining rooms were the least of my concerns. The rocks, in a way, oriented me back to exactly where I was and exactly what I was doing. I was in a river, in a kayak, exercising a little control, but not very much, as the current carried me along. I was not in a hotel or on a different trip or driving to this school event or that one. It was July, not Thanksgiving. I was in a beautiful setting that I'd be best served to take in, to notice, and to be grateful for, not to miss amidst all that might happen, all that could go wrong, all that must be figured out. For in that moment, all that needed to be figured out was the kayak, the rocks, and the current. Some Buddhists have mala beads or mandala beads to help focus the mind on exactly what is happening in the moment. They differ in number and exact use according to different schools and traditions, but a common use is to repeat a mantra or chant as one moves bead by bead through the necklace or bracelet or string that holds them. The repetition returns one to a focused state. But in the practice, the unfocused moments become the real teachers, as it is then that you can return to the moment at hand. Those moments can be seen as a mistake because the point of the practice is to stay in the moment, not think about what has been or what is to come. But it's really those moments of moving away from the present that allow us to return to it with the aid of these beads. And so really the most important part of any meditative practice or any prayer practice is when we completely mess it up. The mistakes become our teachers that way. When we turn from the moment, start thinking about dinner or the drive or the to-do list, that lets us turn back to this moment of being, of peace, of stillness, of equanimity. And that's where the practice, the discipline, the transformation starts to take root. And the beads are this tactile tool to help with all of that. I don't use mala beads, but my most frequent mantra is all shall be well. Sometimes I write that down and keep it in my front pocket, and it's always in my wallet. It comes from Julian of Norwich, a 14th and 15th century Christian anchoress, which meant that she lived in a small room, just imagine a small room just off the sanctuary in a church, and she lived there as this act of devotion to God and God's people. Anchoresses were sometimes pastoral counselors and spiritual advisors for church people too, but they did so in this very secluded way. They freely never left their rooms, mostly prayed all day, studied, and in Julian's case, she wrote a lot. She had these mystic visions, these revelations of God that answered the frequent anxiety that enveloped her mind. And in one of her visions, the Holy assures her that though life is difficult and full of travails and full of all sorts of worries, in the end, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. And the reason she is told that all shall be well is because God ultimately is of love. Love, in her revelations, eventually makes all things well. Thus, it is at the center of Julian's mystic spiritual framework, just as it is at the center of what will likely be the newest expression of the UUA's principles this summer. The likely new UU principles, depending on a vote at this General Assembly coming up in June, includes a graphic that has love at the center of the image as that which holds us together. And around love are the commonly shared values of our faith, justice, transformation, generosity, equity, pluralism, interdependence. But love is at the center. It was at the center for Julian in the 14th century and appears to be at the center for UUs in the 21st. I think that places us in good company. And Julian wrote her visions down during the midst of the bubonic plague, which she herself contracted as a child and almost died from, but survived, although half of Europe would not. It was devastating. People were terrified. And in her heightened spiritual state, she would share a message that through it all, love would hold us together, and in the end, it would carry us through. All shall be well is only that way because of love. For Julian, it was only God's love that mattered. For us, it can be the love that we proclaim, serve, and practice even when, especially when, the times seem devoid of it. There is often a tendency to get swept up in the toxicities of the dominant culture and reflect back what is being presented, sometimes even in heightened concentration. Every congregation should be wary of doing that, for we are to point to a new way of being, just, generous, compassionate, patient, forgiving. And if the dominant culture is hateful, frightened, divisive and demeaning, it is more important than ever for the church to be loving, confident, patient, and respectful. We are to point to a new, healthier, more loving and hopeful way, not to reinforce the profitable and opportunistic toxicities of the commentary class. And so I stick with all shall be well to clear my mind, to refocus, and to turn me toward the good. And though I need frequent turning because it's very easy to slip, each slip allows a turn, and each turn is toward equanimity and not bitterness. Not this equanimity I achieve once and hold forever, but one that I turn toward again and again and again, many times, and glimpse and experience until it flees and I must find it again. Or maybe it finds me, as it does sometimes in the voice of my friend and colleague and former interim minister of my congregation, Reverend Meg Barnhouse, who put Julian's words to song. And for years now, I've heard Meg's voice assure me that Julian was right, that all shall be well through music. And in my own ever-developing theology that leaves plenty of room for change and growth, if Meg and Julian agree on something, you can take it to the bank. If you Google Meg Barnhouse and All Will Be Well, you can hear her song on YouTube. It's lovely, and it'll stay in your mind and heart, especially if you listen to it a lot, which I recommend. That's a good way to find a happier, more peaceful mind again and again, to fill it with beauty, peace, playfulness, and love, to read, watch, and listen to that which brings optimism and goodness into one's thoughts, to fill one's mind with the good and the true. When we're stuck in the negative, the divisive, left unable to even imagine a positive way through the toxicities of today's chattering class, we can turn toward music and art, people and spaces that live and share a healthier message. That doesn't mean that we turn away forever from the rantings, but it does mean that we turn toward the good stuff that makes life joyful, so that we are strong and balanced and positive enough to engage all that is. For if we do not turn toward happiness and develop it in our minds, we will be consumed by the negativity and toxicity of these days, and then we will either contribute more of that or we'll shut down and completely give up, neither of which affords us a life of faith and promise and service. But if we turn toward the beautiful, even though so much is profane, we'll have the energy and drive to be agents of change in the world. We won't be stuck in the bad. We'll be agents of the good, and we'll inspire people, freeing them to do the same. We won't remove ourselves from the world, and we won't further pollute what is already sorted. We'll bring something new and needed to our shared lives today. We'll bring love as an expression of God's original gift, or as our first moral commitment to one another and the stranger, or for some of us as both. That can be what binds us to one another and the stranger. This love can be the string upon which those mala beads or prayer beads are strung. For while the beads are more noticed and often beautiful and touched in the prayer and meditation practices themselves, without the string, the beads aren't connected. They fall away and get lost in the cracks of the pavement, or are swept away in the dust, or are lost forever in the dirt. The beads can't bring us back to this moment, to this mantra, to this place of faith, hope, and love, because we don't have them. It's the love that allows them to lead us, that allows us to grasp them, that allows us to develop again and again balanced minds that answer vice with virtue, peaceful minds that study war no more, and creative minds that imagine new possibilities and outcomes in the world. I was swept into that space when I was stuck on that kayak in between the rocks. I eventually realized that my weight was helping to keep the kayak lodged right where it was. And while I didn't think getting out of the kayak would help, I did realize that if I slid around so that I was sitting in it backwards, the current would probably catch the kayak and pull it out of the rocks. I still thought I might fall out, but at that point it was kind of nothing ventured, nothing gained. If you fall out, you fall out. And so I moved around and sat the wrong way. And the current took the kayak where the current wanted it to go, and I just went along for the ride. I had to face a different direction and make a change and not be so stuck in my seat. I had to look at things a different way, and that sent me along down the river, and indeed all was well. and no worries came to me for the rest of the trip about what was to come, none of which could be handled at that moment anyway. Only water and sky and tree and rapid and teenagers and retired people and a longtime friend and some brand new ones, and the sense of being held by something much larger than all of us. Though there is always much to concern the mind, so too is there much to bless and comfort it. So too are there reasons for praise and peace, and they are always in balance with those of concern and struggle. And so must we choose in practice, in culture, in time spent with friends and loved ones, that which reminds us of peace and creativity and joy, not once and forever, but each day and always. For life is a blessing that is meant to be enjoyed, and that process renews day by day, minute by minute, and moment by moment. May we do so each day. Amen. And let us rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, Go Lifted Up.
We will extinguish the chalice. Please do the flame, but may the hope of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action burn bright in our hearts until we are together again.
Go forth grateful for the moments before you, the breath within you, the people among you, and the Spirit guiding you toward lives of love and kindness. And go forth knowing that you are held always and always with everyone else by that great love of no beginning and never ending. Go in peace and amen.